Hey everybody, I'm back. And I know this is a surprise because I'm back with the baby. So, oh my goodness, this has been such the experience. Um, oh my gosh, where do I start? Where do I start? Okay, so I'm gonna start from the very beginning when I found out I was pregnant. And that was last year, June, what was that, 26? I have my phone with me. I got a picture of the pregnancy test. But I believe it was, I'm just going to say it was the last week of June. I took a test and found out that I was pregnant. Before then, I had some suspicions or whatever. A friend of mine, my best friend, hey girl, Amber, she was over that night and I was helping her with a makeup look. And of course, while we were doing the makeup look, we were talking. And then we came into the office with my husband because we needed to ask him about a male perspective. And, you know, throughout that whole time, I felt like I was cramping or that maybe like my cycle was coming on a bit early. So when she left, I went ahead and went to the restroom and I noticed that there was some spotting. So I wasn't expecting my cycle to come on until like a few days later. So I was like, what is going on? I guess it's coming early. So that was a Saturday. Yeah, that was a Saturday. So I went on a couple of days, didn't even think about it. So Tuesday, I wasn't feeling very well. I was super tired, like really, really tired. So I told my supervisor that I was going to be a little bit late because I wasn't feeling very well. And I already had some Dollar Tree tests under my cabinet. And so as I was laying in bed, I just randomly started thinking about, you know, my cycle and, you know, the cramping. And I was like, you know what? I'll go ahead and take a test. It's probably going to be negative, but let me just go ahead and do it anyway. So I went ahead and I took the test. And I, you know, proceeded to start getting ready. I was brushing my teeth and I just decided to look over at the test and I seen the test line, which is always going to be a bold pink. And then I seen the second line was faint. And I was like, my eyes playing tricks on me. I know I just woke up. I haven't washed my face yet. Let me, you know. But I looked again and it got a little bit more bold, but it was still pretty faint. And I was like, oh my goodness. My mouth just dropped. So, yeah, after that, when I got my husband, you know, he was super happy. We hugged, you know, I cried. I cried. It was just a super joyous moment. I have no idea the journey that we had to get here. So, it was a joyous moment. Let's see. So, we went to the doctor and had an ultrasound and I was 4 weeks pregnant. It was so crazy seeing him, this baby here, as a little bitty grain of rice. He literally looked like a little grain of rice. He didn't even look like the little shrimp, the little shrimper, gummy bear little things. He was a little grain of rice. So yeah, I was 4 weeks and I was fine at the time. I was fine. I didn't really feel too many symptoms up until week 7 or 8. That is when I got hit with a ton of bricks, or at least that's what it felt like. Felt like I got hit by a ton of bricks, 5 18-wheeler trucks. I was exhausted. And it made working really, really, really tough. At the time I had a desk job, so, you know, I wouldn't up and moving around. I didn't have to do too much. I mean, I don't know, maybe that, maybe that was a bad thing. I don't know, because maybe if I was a bit more active, I would, you know, it would have kept me more awake and more alert. But sitting at that desk, staring at that laptop, oh my God. It was the hardest thing ever. Like, I used my lunch breaks. I had an hour. So I would hurry up and eat so I could have the rest of my lunch break to take a nap. Whether it be in my car or in the office. In my office, it didn't matter. I needed a nap every day. Like, 8 weeks was something. And I had really bad morning sickness. And I don't know why they call it morning sickness, because I was throwing up morning, noon, and night, okay? And it seemed like it happened at the same times every day too. And that went on for weeks. For weeks. What's wrong, Ashley? What's wrong with this baby? What's wrong? What? What's wrong? And that went on for weeks, like even on into my second trimester. And I'd say about a few weeks into my second trimester, the queasiness and the morning sickness finally leveled out. It finally leveled out. And I'm not going to say that I stopped throwing up, but I stopped throwing up as much. So my second trimester, it was pretty pleasurable. I was still tired, but it was such a relief to not be throwing up morning, noon, and night. And I could actually enjoy my food a bit more. Okay. You sleepy? You sleepy? I could actually enjoy my food a little bit more. I was taking a lot of naps, and probably even more than in my first trimester. I don't know. I was just, the further along I got, the more naps I took. On to my third trimester. Of course, by then I was getting pretty huge. I was getting pretty huge, and I had to go shopping. Yeah, that was when I had to go shopping and get me some more pants and shirts and shoes and everything. So my energy was still same as the second trimester. I was still taking naps I started taking naps every day after work. I couldn't take it. Work wore me out. It wore me out, child. And I swelled up a lot. My second trimester, I was a little swole. But my third trimester, I was really swole. And at least now I know it was, just a bunch of fluid. My feet looked like loaves of bread, especially after a long day at work. But yeah, my third trimester, I took a lot of naps. And when I stopped working, I was home and I took a bunch of naps during the day. And I ate, and I was just on that couch or in the bed waiting on this little one to come. So his original due date was March 1st. And he ended up coming like a week early, something like that. Yeah, because he came February 23rd. So let's see, the 22nd, which was a Friday, that night I went to sleep. I was fine. I wasn't really feeling anything. However, while I was sleeping, I did start to feel some cramping, and I thought it was normal because throughout my third trimester I did experience some cramping, and I thought it was just Braxton Hicks. So I was worried about it. I stayed asleep, got up, went to the restroom a few times. I just thought I was experiencing Braxton Hicks. I really didn't think that it was real contractions. So after I went to the restroom that last time, I laid back down and I was still cramping, and let me see. It felt like they got a little stronger as I was sleeping, but I wasn't really trying to focus on it. I was just trying to hurry up and fall asleep so I wouldn't feel it anymore. And but I couldn't fall back asleep. It's like they kept me awake. And it obviously it was because they were getting stronger and stronger. And so I finally was able to fall asleep for a little bit, for like a few hours. And then I woke up pretty early. Was it about 7 something or whatever? And my husband, he woke up too. And he got up and he started, brushing his teeth, washing his face or whatever. And I got up. I was trying to do that, but I didn't make it to the restroom because at this point they had gotten even stronger, the cramps. So I was like, okay, Jesus, what is going on here? Because normally when I feel these cramps, they're, one, not this strong, and two, they don't last this long. I was like, this is crazy. I've been dealing with this since like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So as I was contemplating like what is going on, they were getting even stronger. So at this point I decided to say something to my husband, like, hey, I tell him that I had started cramping the night before and they've been getting stronger ever since, and now I'm feeling kind of crazy. Feeling kind of crazy now. And he was like, do you think you need to go to the hospital? Do you think you're in labor? And I was like, Well, no, I don't think I'm a labor because I haven't lost my mucus plug, and then my water hasn't broken or and stuff like that. So I was really contemplating. But when I started to like yell out and yelp in pain, I was like, okay, let's go ahead and go. I don't know what's going on. It's getting worse. Yeah, let's just go ahead and go just in case. The worst thing they could do is send us back home and and I labor at home or whatever. So when we got to the hospital, my OB was there. Luckily, look at God, she was there and she heard me yell out in pain, and she was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like labor." And so they took me to a room and got me hooked up to everything, and I was checked. They checked my cervix. I hated cervix checks. Oh my goodness! Whenever I got them at the my OB visits, I was only like half a centimeter dilated, so it was really painful. So when they checked my cervix at the hospital, it wasn't as painful because I was 3 centimeters dilated. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is really happening. I am in labor. So of course they kept me. They was like, this baby is coming today. So at that point, they were contractions, obviously. So at this point, the contractions was getting worse and worse and worse, and I was begging for an epidural. Now, I had planned for a natural birth at home. I wanted a home birth. I wanted the pool in the living room. I wanted my family, my friends around. I wanted a nice, serene environment. I wanted candles. I wanted soft music playing, some gospel or whatever. Didn't get none of that, okay? So I was at the hospital. I was begging for an epidural. I finally got one, and I was able to relax. And at this point, my husband is calling who he needs to call. My parents, my best friends, my cousins. He told them in our little group message. So at this point, I'm pretty chill. Unfortunately, the epidural did kind of slow down the contractions, but that's okay. After that, they let my husband come in, and he was sitting like right here in behind me. And they started the procedure. I was like super nervous, but I was calm. I was calm. I was excited too because I was finally gonna meet him. I couldn't wait to just see his little face. 9 whole months. But anyway, I had no idea that they was gonna be tugging and pulling on him or on my stomach like that. Like she was really up in that thing. I was like, jeez. So they finally got him out, and I got scared once again because I didn't hear him crying. But a few seconds later, he let out a little whimper, and then he started to crying. It was really super soft. It was so cute. I was expecting something loud, but he started crying. I was relieved, and they of course doctor started stitching me up. Oh goodness! At that point, I started to freak out. It just felt like I couldn't breathe, and I do have my anxiety issues sometimes, so that didn't help either. That already makes you feel like you can't breathe and make your chest feel heavy and all that, and that's what I felt like. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like everything in my stomach had rushed up to my chest, and it was just sitting right here. I couldn't breathe. So I really started freaking out, and I believe I freaked everyone else out. So she hurried up and stitched me up real quick. So I was super relieved when they were done. One of the nurses tried to bring him. She put him like right in my face. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I can't do it right now because I was freaking out. Like I couldn't breathe. I don't like feeling like I can't breathe. So I feel bad about that. But anyway, we got back to the room, and they started doing what they needed to do with him, and my husband was over there with them, and everyone came back in the room, and they basically said their goodbyes because they told me I looked like I was super exhausted, and I felt exhausted. I know I looked horrible. I know I looked terrible, but I really was tired. It had been a long day. I hadn't had a nap, and it was a long day. So they said their goodbyes. They saw the baby, and they left. After that, the nurses what did they do? I don't know. I think they started cleaning me up or something like that. They started doing something, and then the one of the nurses started like pressing down on my stomach, and it hurt really really bad. And I was so mad at her. I was like, why do you keep doing this? I was yelling out in pain. She just kept doing it. She was like, oh no, you know, I don't remember what she said, but basically something isn't right. I guess after the C-section, they press down on your stomach to make sure that your uterus contracted, and obviously mine hadn't, and I guess, and that was why I was screaming or yelling out when she was pressing on my stomach, because it was still up here. It was still like I still had a baby in there, and I was bleeding a lot, TMI, but I felt it just flowing out, and they found clots. They brought a doctor in, and she got a bunch of clots out. My husband said they were huge. He was like, one of them was the size of your placenta. And I was like, oh my goodness. Because I wasn't feeling any of that. Like, I knew they were down there taking them out. And thank God, you know, it wasn't painful with them doing that. So, they were, I remember they were just constantly like changing those huge little pads underneath me, because it was just so much blood. I lost 2 liters of blood. Because of that. And they were just changing out the pads, changing them out. And I was like, oh my goodness. So after that, they decided I needed a DNC. So they took me back in to get a procedure done. The doctor, she took out all the rest of the clots. And I was still bleeding. Some there too, but not as bad as I was in the room. So she got all the clots out, and then she put a balloon in my uterus to help it contract. And you know, I thank God for that procedure, and I thank God for her, because before that they were struggling. They didn't even know I needed DNC before that. They were trying to figure out what was going on while I was still bleeding. What's up with all these clots? And she came along and she figured it right out. So I really do thank God for her in that procedure. I went back to the room, reunited with baby and hubby. At that point, they had to go ahead and hurry up and give me some blood. So like I said, I lost 2 liters. And I was still, of course, hooked up to that fluid, which was an issue. But I'm going to get to that. So, yeah. After that, I was recovering, and I was in there for like, what, a day or two? And then I was discharged, came home with hubby and the baby. That's what I went through, a C-section, losing 2 liters of blood. That was quite the show. But little man is here, he's healthy, he's happy, and that's all that matters. And I wouldn't have had it any other way. But ask me if this one gonna get a sibling. Not for me, child. And then I found out that my all of my births would have to be C-section because my I'm getting tongue-tied, because my pelvic bone is too small to push baby. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to go through pregnancy again, knowing how horrible I retain fluid. Like I'm not so quick to sign myself up for that again, you know. I may just, you know, of course I'm being paranoid, I'm probably being dramatic, I don't know. But I'm just really scared of that. That's my birth story, pretty traumatizing. And you know what, I'm glad I didn't go through with that home birth, because I would have ended up being rushed to the hospital, you know. Because, and there's no telling what could have went wrong, you know, with the way I bled at the hospital. What if that would have happened here, you know? Thank God we're literally like 5 minutes, maybe even less, from the hospital I gave birth at. But still, like, everything worked out the way it was supposed to. So yeah, that is my birth story. The postpartum period it's been interesting. It's been really interesting. I struggled a bit, you know, with my emotions, because I was just really traumatized on what happened, and then, you know, just made me sad, and I got a little stir crazy too, so I'm dealing with all of these emotions and trying to overcome them. But thank God I'm getting more and more back to myself. I say I'm about 80% back to myself, so I'm gonna, you know, keep going on these last 2 weeks. But yeah, I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys in my next video. You say, oh, he done went to sleep. I'm surprised. Because I've been doing all this talking. I thought he'd been up this whole time. Get him. Go ahead and put this little guy to sleep, and I will see you guys in my next video.